CNN coverage of former President Richard Nixon's death will continue in a few moments. But first, Bernard Shaw joins us from Johannesburg, South Africa for a pre-election update. It's a few minutes past midnight there, so good morning, Bernie.
Good morning from Johannesburg. Good afternoon to you, Joe. It appeared as if the closing days of South Africa's historic all-race election would be relatively peaceful ones. But today, violence flared. A deadly clash between African National Congress campaigners and Inkatha Freedom Party supporters erupted in Ulundi. That's the capital of the Kwazulu homeland and the site of the headquarters of the Inkatha Freedom Party. CNN's Brent Sadler was in Ulundi during the subsequent standoff between the groups. He's on the phone now to bring us up to date.
Well, Bernie, at least 3 ANC election workers canvassing in the Kwazulu capital of Ulundi were killed trying to hand out party leaflets in a community filled with supporters of the rival Inkatha Freedom Party. 2 small trucks carrying a group of ANC supporters were burnt out. One man reportedly died in the flames, the second shot to death. South African police reinforcements waited in reserve as a large crowd carrying guns threatened to storm a police station, where the rest of the ANC group and 4 peace monitors took refuge. A third person reportedly died from a gunshot wound inside the police compound, in circumstances unclear. It was only after the direct intervention of Inkatha's leader, Dr. Mangosuthu Buthelezi, that the peace monitors and ANC supporters were escorted out to safety in armored police vehicles. The ANC leadership has expressed shock and outrage at the incident, which it's feared could provoke reprisals. Brent Sadler, CNN, Ulundi.
Tomorrow, Buthelezi will resume and conclude his campaign in a principal stronghold of the African National Congress. Thousands of Inkatha supporters are expected at a rally in the township of Soweto, just outside Johannesburg. For South Africa's 2 other main candidates, this weekend is a dead sprint to the finish after exhausting campaigns. As the curtain draws on Africa's last white minority government, President F.W. de Klerk appeared before several thousand followers in Cape Town. CNN's Richard Blystone is there. He joins us now. Richard?
Bernie, it was the final day of campaigning, a long campaign and a long process for President de Klerk. And next to the last day for the man who he freed from jail 4 years ago, the man who expects to take over the government that will form in the building right behind me, the South African Parliament. With thousands cheering them on, both men today were at pains to drive home the images they've been trying to project. Compassion on the one hand, moderation on the other. It'll be a few days before we know if this was really a jamboree or an early wake for the party that put race discrimination into law here. But South Africans are known for unusual ideas about what's politically correct. And to these mixed-race people, whose communities were torn up by apartheid, President de Klerk is obviously forgiven.
Never again on 1 inch of the soil of the Republic of South Africa will there ever be racial discrimination again.
A little more than 4 years ago, de Klerk announced that apartheid was finished, not knowing quite what he was unleashing. A staunch conservative, he never apologized, but he could read the handwriting on the wall and try to rewrite it. A scuffle with a heckler gave de Klerk another chance to emphasize that the ruling party that used to jail or kill its opponents is reborn.
Please don't hurt the man. We're a party of peace.
He may well go down in history as being to state racism what Mikhail Gorbachev was to communism. There's little comfort in what happened to Gorbachev. Whatever history may say about F.W. de Klerk, the designers of apartheid would never believe this. Nor would they believe this.
Now the president will begin to speak.
Nelson Mandela, jailed for 27 years as a firebrand, rebuking African National Congress followers who welcomed him to Soweto with an AK-47 salute.
And if I find out the people who are firing these guns, I will have no alternative but to expel them from the organization.
Mandela, who will cast his first ever vote Wednesday, said all he wants is a democratically elected government.
Even if it is all African, a mixed one, or even if it is all white, as long as it is elected through the democratic process, we will be satisfied with that.
But he predicted the ANC will win outright, and nobody there doubted him. What with age and the tides of politics, this could well be the last run at high office for both men. President de Klerk, a deeply religious man, is taking Sunday off. Mr. Mandela is heading into the Zulu heartland of Natal, and his security men can't be sleeping very well tonight. Bernie?
Indeed they can't. Richard, I'm wondering, is Mr. de Klerk indicating publicly that according to all indications in this great country, next week he will not be president?
He seems to be resigned. Bernie, he told reporters only today that his one regret was the violence that's attended the run-up to this election. As I said before, he's a deeply religious man, convinced that he has a mission to get South Africa on a new course, whatever the outcome. And he's not the kind who would have any illusions about that.
Thank you, Richard Blystone, live from Cape Town. In another sign of his fading political profile as president, Mr. de Klerk nearly found himself bumped from a national radio broadcast last night. Originally, he was scheduled to appear by himself and take telephone calls. When members of the Democratic Party complained that the president was being granted an unfair amount of airtime, the station gave a DP official the opportunity to either debate Mr. de Klerk or take the show himself. Mr. de Klerk protested vehemently, and finally, he was allowed to go on the air alone. The white separatist Freedom Front Party signed a deal today with the government and the ANC. Under the agreement, the new government that emerges from the elections will consider establishing a separate homeland for Afrikaners, but only if the election shows there's enough support for the idea. Still, not all right-wingers are ready to take part in the democratic process. White extremist Eugene Terre-Blanche told about 200 supporters to forget the ballot and to fetch their guns.
We are not white colonists to be driven out of this country. This is the last stand. This is our stand. And if they give us the opportunity to take our fatherland by doing the same to us, which the so-called freedom fighters did to the rest of Africa, we will, as I said in the past, level them with the gravel, my good friend.
In Orange Free State, an explosion ripped through a diesel oil pipeline early Saturday morning. Investigators suspect right-wing sabotage. Well, about 72 hours from now, this country that is trying so utterly hard to unify millions of people of many different colors will officially introduce a new multicolored flag: black, yellow, green, white, blue, and red. Those are the 6 colors of South Africa's new banner. Some of the flags are being made in South Africa, but most are being produced by a firm in the Netherlands. South African companies just could not keep up with the heavy demand. That's all for now from Johannesburg. Of course, we'll have very extensive live coverage throughout the elections here in South Africa. I'm Bernard Shaw. Now back to you, Joe, in Atlanta.
Thank you, Bernie.